A narrow escape. Emily sat on the couch, staring at the engagement ring in her palm. It felt heavier than ever, as if it carried the weight of the past 3 years. 3 years spent with a man she thought she knew. Her wedding was supposed to be on April 6th, just days away. But after last night, everything had changed. The short-let apartment she and Jason had rented for their wedding planning was still filled with the remnants of their discussions. Guest lists, fabric samples, and a half-empty bottle of wine. She never imagined she would be leaving this place, not as a bride-to-be, but as a woman who had just dodged the biggest mistake of her life. The conversation that shattered everything had started innocently enough. Find out in this gripping story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. It was a warm evening. Emily was sitting cross-legged on the floor, flipping through a wedding catalog while Jason and his best friend, Mark, sat on the couch, discussing a recent family inheritance scandal involving Herbert Wigwe's children. "Thank God their father willed everything to them before his death," Mark said, sipping his beer. "Otherwise, their extended family would have taken everything. And if the wife hadn't died with him, they would have accused her of all sorts of things." Emily nodded in agreement. "Exactly. That's how families can be sometimes, greedy and heartless." Jason, however, scoffed. "That man was a fool," he said, shaking his head. "How can you will everything to your children when you still have a father, brothers, and uncles? Some men even go as far as putting their wife's name on their property. That's just stupidity." Emily blinked, stunned. "What do you mean?" Jason leaned forward, his voice confident. "Look at my uncle. He made the mistake of including his wife's name on their property, and now my father and the rest of the family can't touch it. That's why men should never do such nonsense." Mark shifted in his seat, frowning. "Jason, are you serious? You wouldn't include your wife in your property." "Why should I?" Jason laughed. "Only foolish men do that. Nigerian women are too greedy. Why should she get anything if she didn't contribute?" Emily felt her chest tighten. "So, do you expect your wife to build and support you?" "Of course," Jason replied as if it were obvious. "A wife should support her husband, but her name shouldn't be on the property. That's how women start having evil motives." Emily clenched her fists. "So I should help you build but have no stake in it? What happens if something happens to you? Should your family just take everything and leave me and the kids with nothing?" Jason scoffed. "Why would a woman even ask for her name to be included? That's just being greedy and wicked. Or do you plan to kill me and run off with my property?" The room went silent. Even Mark looked uncomfortable. Emily took a deep breath. "You expect your wife to pay bills and build with you, but you refuse to acknowledge her contributions? You want a Western woman when it comes to paying bills, but a traditional one when it comes to property division? That's selfish." Jason smirked. "My brother's wife in the UK pays 50-50 and still cooks and cleans. She never lets him enter the kitchen or sweep, even though she contributes to rent and food." Emily shook her head. "Then I would rather stay single. Why get married if I still have to pay rent? If I'm helping build, then all properties should be in both our names. I will not build with a man only for his family to take everything from my children." Jason rolled his eyes. "You women love to act like pregnancy is some great achievement. You aren't the first to give birth." Emily gasped. Even Mark turned to him, shocked. "You're joking, right?" Mark asked. Jason shrugged. "Some women even become lazy during pregnancy. They expect their husbands to cook for them. I don't get it." Emily felt her stomach churn. "Wow. Just wow." She sat frozen, the engagement ring glinting in her trembling palm. Her heart pounded as Jason's words echoed in her mind. "Why should a woman's name be on my property? Pregnancy isn't an achievement." Those two statements hurt her more than anything. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself to unhear what she had just heard, to pretend they didn't matter. But they did. They mattered more than anything right now. For 3 years, she had loved Jason. She had dreamed of their future, imagined their home, their children running around a sunlit living room, the lazy Sunday mornings, the laughter. Was she really about to throw it all away? A painful knot formed in her throat as memories rushed in soft, tender moments she had cherished. She remembered how he held her after her father's surgery, whispering, "You're not alone, Em. I'm here." She remembered their road trips, his hand on hers as they drove through endless highways, his deep chuckles filling the air. "You and me, babe. Always." Her fingers curled around the ring. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe love was about compromise. "No," a voice inside her whispered. Love wasn't about losing yourself. She thought back to the warnings, the subtle nudges from friends and family that she had ignored. Sophia's voice came first. Emily, are you sure Jason respects you? The way he talks about women sometimes. She had laughed it off then. He's just traditional. He'll change. Then there was her cousin Ada, who had once pulled her aside at a family gathering. Jason never lets you have the final say in anything. Does that not bother you? Emily had smiled tightly. That's just how men are. Even Mark, Jason's best friend, had once joked. Jason believes women are guests in a man's life. Make sure you're okay with that. At the time, she had believed that love could soften him, that she could help him see her worth. But now, sitting here, she realized something chilling. Jason had never hidden his beliefs. She had simply refused to see them. Tears welled in her eyes. If she married him, what kind of life awaited her? Would she be one of those women crying on social media about in-laws seizing everything after their husband's death? Would she spend her life fighting for a place? And what if they had daughters? Would Jason teach them that their worth was only in what they could give a man? That their hard work meant nothing because they were born female? Her chest tightened. No, she couldn't do it. With a deep breath, she opened her eyes and looked at the engagement ring. Once a symbol of love and commitment, it now felt like a shackle. Mark shook his head. Jason, you need to change your mindset before you get married. Otherwise, your wife will suffer. Jason laughed. What do you mean his wife? Emily is still here. Emily slowly stood up. Me? God forbid. I thank God for answering my prayers. I was blind, but now I can see. Jason's laughter faded the moment Emily started sliding the ring off her finger. His smirk faded, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. For a brief moment, he looked as if he thought she was joking. She met his gaze, her expression unreadable. I'm done, Jason. His smirk disappeared entirely as she placed the ring on the table. Confusion darkened his face, but deep down he seemed to realize, this time, she wasn't bluffing. Emily, he said, his voice carrying a forced chuckle. What are you doing? She met his gaze, her expression unreadable. I'm leaving, Jason. His brows knit together, and he let out a sharp scoff. Leaving? Because of a simple conversation? Don't be ridiculous. Mark placed a firm hand on Emily's arm. Emily, wait, he said, his voice calm but urgent. I understand why you're upset, and you have every right to be. But are you sure you want to end everything without giving it more thought? Let's talk things through first. Emily's fingers tightened around the ring, her heart pounding. Talk about what, Mark? He's made it clear how he sees marriage, how he sees me. She turned to Jason, her voice trembling but resolute. Is there anything to talk out when a man believes his wife should struggle but have no security? Jason folded his arms, his expression hard. I don't see what's wrong with my views. A wife should support her husband because it's her duty, not because she expects something in return. Mark shook his head in disbelief. Jason, marriage is a partnership, not a sacrifice for one person. If you truly love Emily, you'd listen instead of dismissing her concerns. Jason scoffed. So now you're her savior? Emily inhaled sharply and placed the ring on the table. This isn't anger, Mark. This is clarity, and I refuse to spend my life fighting to be valued. She rose from her seat, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice was firm. It's not just this conversation, Jason. It's what it reveals about you. About us. I can't marry a man who sees me as an asset to be used but never valued. Jason's expression darkened. He shot a glance at Mark, as if looking for support, his jaw tightening. His hands balled into fists. So that's it. His voice rose. You're calling off the wedding over property? Over nonsense. Emily exhaled, shaking her head. It's not nonsense to me. I've ignored so many signs, but I won't ignore this. You don't respect me, Jason. You never did. Jason's lips curled into a bitter smile. Oh, I see, he sneered. Mark has finally gotten into your head. He's been waiting for this moment, hasn't he? You think he'll marry you after this? News flash, Emily, he won't. Mark shot up from his seat, his eyes blazing. Jason, don't bring me into your mess. You did this to yourself. I've never had any interest in Emily beyond friendship. Jason ignored him, turning his full rage toward Emily. You women are all the same, he spat. Ungrateful, entitled, always looking for what you can take from a man. Well, guess what? You'll regret this. You'll never find another man like me. Emily let out a dry laugh, picking up her bag. I hope not. Jason's face twisted with fury. Fine. Walk away. But don't come crawling back when no man wants to marry a woman who throws away a good thing over petty arguments. She paused at the door, looking at him one last time. A good thing? No, Jason. I almost married a nightmare. With that, she walked out, leaving Jason standing there, his rage echoing in the silence. Now, sitting in her friend Sophia's apartment, Emily felt a wave of relief wash over her. 3 years with Jason, yet it had only taken 4 days of real conversation to uncover his true nature. Her phone buzzed. It was her mother. She sighed before answering. Emily. Her mother's voice was tight with emotion. We've told everyone about the wedding. What do we do now? Mom, I know this is disappointing, but I couldn't marry him. You would have been crying for me in the future if I did. Her mother sighed. Are you sure about this? Yes, Mom. He believes women should suffer in marriage. He thinks like his father, the same man who threw his own wife out. I can't be with someone like that. There was silence on the line. Then her mother said, Your father is upset, but we'll handle it. I'm just grateful you saw this before it was too late. Emily felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, Mom. After the call, Sophia walked over with a glass of wine. Girl, you dodged a bullet. Emily smiled, shaking her head. I know. Next time, I'm cohabiting before any wedding. I can't believe I was with a man for 3 years and didn't know his real mindset. Sophia nodded. Sometimes love blinds us. But now you're free. Emily exhaled deeply. Yes, I am. The next morning, Emily woke up feeling lighter than she had in months. Messages from Jason filled her inbox. Pleas, apologies, even a promise to change. She ignored them. Later that day, Mark called. Hey, Emily, he said. Just checking on you. I'm good, Mark. Thanks for standing up for me last night. He chuckled. Honestly, I always wondered how you two worked. You're strong, independent, and you think for yourself. Jason, well, he's Jason. Emily sighed. I thought I knew him. Mark hesitated. Can I be honest with you? I think Jason has always been this way. You just never had the chance to see it because your relationship was all romance and no real-life tests. She thought about it. He was right. Their relationship had been all passion, no foundation. They had spent most of their time in the honeymoon phase, never having deep conversations about marriage, finances, or expectations. Lesson learned, she said. Next time, I'll ask the right questions. Mark laughed. I feel sorry for your next boyfriend. He's in for a serious interview. Emily laughed too. Oh, trust me, he will be. As she hung up, a thought settled in her mind, one that had never truly been there before. For the first time in years, she wasn't looking forward to being someone's wife. She was looking forward to being herself. And that was enough. Emily stepped onto the balcony, letting the crisp morning air fill her lungs. The city buzzed below, but for the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. No more doubts, no more compromises that cost her dignity. She had chosen herself. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Jason. She didn't bother to read it. Some doors, once closed, should never be reopened. With a small smile, she turned away from the noise of the past and stepped back inside, ready to embrace whatever came next. She was free. And that was more than enough. Kindly support me by subscribing to my channel, like my video, and drop a comment.